Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Hello, hello. If this is your very first time on, make sure that you drop your name. Make sure that you tell me where you are joining from. Even if you're watching the replay, add your name, where you are joining from in the comment section. I just love to see where everyone is joining us from. If this is your very first live, hi, I am Alaina. I'm the owner of the Organized Money, and I help people organize their life, their work, and their money. And today we are getting into budgeting categories. Budgeting categories. I'm really excited about this topic. I actually taught on this topic last year. And my budgeting categories really haven't changed since last year, but I still get this question from time to time, like, how do you know what to put your budgeting categories under? How do you know if you're budgeting correctly? All of that, in which it really differs depending on your particular style. But I'm going to share with you my 10 budgeting categories and how I kind of rationalize each one of them and what goes under each particular category. So hopefully that helps you if you are trying to figure out your own category. So today we're going to be doing about 30 minutes of teaching where I just share with you all of my categories. And then for the next 30 minutes, I'm going to be taking any Q&As. So if you have a question, make sure that you use hashtag Q. I'm going to put it in the chat. Put hashtag Q before your question. And this just makes it really, really easy for me to quickly see who has a question versus who's just making a comment. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into it. Today we are talking about budgeting categories. And if you don't have budgeting categories and you're wondering why budgeting categories, why is this such a big deal? I believe that in order for your budget to be effective, like in order for you to really see how you're spending your money, where your money is going, what's your trouble areas, you really need to have some budgeting categories. And so your budget needs to be broken down and organized into ways that you can understand. So that is what the categories are for. It's so that I can easily identify the different areas that we are spending our money on, and I can easily identify if we're having an issue or a trouble with a particular area. We can zone in on that area. We can see what's the behavior, what's the habit, what's the routine that's causing us to go over budget in this particular area. It's kind of difficult when you're just looking at all of your money that's coming in and out of your account. You just see that you may have gone over budget, but if you don't have budgeting categories, then it may be hard to identify what's causing the problem. What's the habit? What are you doing that is causing you to go over budget? So that's why we're talking about this particular topic today. It's going to help you to budget better. It's going to help you to basically be able to save more money in the long run. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. And remember, and I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger just so y'all can see. These are things that I just want you to take note of, things that I really want you to remember. Your budget categories will change over time and your seasons of life. So I have talked about seasons of life, and I have talked about how different things I was doing at different times in my life. It's the same thing with your budget. So at one particular time when I had a newborn, my baby category or the kids category was a really big part of our budget because we had to pay for diapers, we had to pay for formula. It was just a really big part of our budget at one point in time. And so as my children have gotten older, their needs have changed to where we still have to do different things for them, but we don't have that particular category maybe moved over into entertainment or other things. So you really need to pay attention to what season of life you're in when you're thinking about your budget categories. And your budget categories are the best way to know if you are overspending. You may not need all of the categories that I have. So I told you guys I have 10 categories. I'm going to go through all 10 of these categories. That does not mean that you may need 10 categories. You may need less categories, but you also may need more depending on what you have going on. So you may have a specific category if you're getting married. You may have one if you're throwing a really big birthday party. Maybe it's a milestone event that you are planning for and saving for and budgeting for. So all of that may differ when you come down to these particular categories, but these are my 10. These are the 10 that I am currently using. All right. And of course, if you want to find out more about my membership, about my planners, about all of the other stuff that I do on this channel, you can definitely find me on Facebook. We have a Facebook group over there called the Organized Money Group. So you can find us over there. I'm also on Instagram at the Organized Money. And of course, I have a bunch of videos here on YouTube. I have a planner, an Etsy shop, planner shop, where I sell planner inserts. And in Wednesday's video, I'm going to give you an update into my planner. I'm really trying to get into sharing with y'all more ideas on how I use my inserts within my planner, because I know a lot of you will purchase them and then you may not know exactly how to use them. So I'm going to be doing a couple of videos on that coming up. So just stay tuned for that. All right. So let's go ahead and jump into the categories. Category 1 is donations. Once again, this is a category that I have. It is at the top of my budget. To each person may be different, but in our home, our donations is our top category. As you know, I am a pastor. My husband is a pastor. So tithing is at the top of our budget. We also do offerings. We also do donations to other charities, and we do give gifts to other people. So if we see someone that's in need or a family that's in need, we set aside a certain amount of money in our budget to give gifts to other people, to do charities. We give to St. Jude and other charities that we love, and then we do tithe and offerings. So once again, that's one of our top categories. This one you may not need, but this is one that we do. The second one that we have is my savings and investing. So this is the very next one that we have in line. And I have my sinking funds under here, my short-term emergency fund, my long-term emergency fund, Roth IRA, traditional IRA, educational accounts, and business investments. So let's quickly go through each one of these. So my short-term sinking fund, my sinking funds and my short-term emergency account are basically about the same thing. I use sinking funds, cash saving sinking funds, for different events that are coming up where I know exactly when I'm going to need the money. So my sinking funds include things like Christmas, or birthday fund, or because I know exactly when Christmas is, I know when my anniversary is, I know when my birthday is, I know when all of our kids' birthdays are going to be. So I am saving a specific amount of money for these particular events, and I will usually save for these particular events in cash. I have a cash saving envelope, my cash envelopes, and this is where I save for these particular sinking funds. So these are sinking funds where I know exactly when I'm going to need the money, and I will stash $10, $20, $30 every single time I get paid into each one of these envelopes to make sure that I have enough when Christmas rolls around. So that is my sinking funds. However, I also have another version of my sinking funds in a short-term emergency account. So my short-term emergency account is where I keep sinking fund money for different things that are coming up when I don't know when it's going to happen. So things like car repairs, home repairs, I don't know if anything is ever going to break in my home or when it's going to break. I don't know if I'm going to get a flat tire tomorrow. I'm not really sure if it's going to happen. I know it will happen at some point, right? Sometime I will need car maintenance. At some point, I'm going to get a flat tire. At some point, we're going to need to do some type of home maintenance, but I'm not exactly sure when that is going to happen. So since I don't know when it's going to happen, or like I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to need the money, I keep that money in a short-term emergency account, which is another checking account that is attached to my regular checking account. And the reason I keep it in my bank account or in that separate savings account, short term savings account, is because I don't know when. And since I don't know when I'm going to need the money, I don't want the money to be in cash at home where when I'm stuck somewhere else and I need to hurry up and use it. So I do like having that money set aside in my savings account to where if I need it, I can transfer it. And that money is set aside in a checking account so that I am able to make as many transfers as I need. So that is my short term emergency fund. My long term emergency fund is the 3 to 6 months of savings that we always recommend that you save of your expenses. So I like to have, I believe we currently have about 6 months in there. My goal as an entrepreneur is to have a year just because I'm an entrepreneur. However, if you're not an entrepreneur, we always say 3 to 6 months into this long-term emergency fund. Have it as a separate bank that is not attached to your account. Mine is in a money market account that is separate from all of my other accounts. My Roth IRA. So I have a Roth IRA, a traditional IRA, and I just opened a SEP account, which is for business owners that need to save for retirement as well. So I have all of those with Fidelity. I have separate savings or separate investment accounts for those. I have educational accounts, 529 plans for my kids, and all of those are with Fidelity. And so all of these fall under my savings and investment accounts. And I had a business investing that I would move money into my business account when I first started with my business. Now, I don't need this one anymore because now my business is profitable and it's able to pay me. But when I first was starting with my business, when I was first investing into YouTube and I was buying my cameras and I was trying to figure out my lighting and getting ring lights and all of these other things, and my business wasn't making any money, I was investing into my business. So anytime I would make investment and take my personal money and put it into my business account, I would put that under my savings and investing category to let myself know that I was moving this money into my business account in order for the goal to be to make more money in the long run because it was an investment. Okay, so that is my second category, savings and investing. Third category is home. My third category is under home. So this is where your mortgage, home repairs, home projects, gardeners, anything that you need for your house would fall under here. So I do have all of these categories to where I will list out anything that is happening with my home under home. And this is a great way that I am able to figure out like how much I need to save for sinking funds. Because remember, we talked about in the previous slide that I have a short-term emergency account, and this is where I will save for home repairs and car repairs. Well, how do you know how much you need for your home repairs or your car repairs? This is where I would be able to kind of figure that out, is by how many things have I listed under my home repairs under the home category. So if I had under my home category, I had to fix a couple things throughout the year last year, I would add all of that up and see how much did I spend. If I spent about $1,000, then maybe I would save $1,500 this year or that be the goal to save $1,500 this year in order to make sure that I have enough for my home repairs for this upcoming year. So it's a great way to kind of look at what you have paid for in the past when you're estimating how much you need for the current year. So all of mine are my mortgage, home repairs, home projects, gardening, cleaning, pool. And I really would probably call this category space. Probably even better would be my space, because I usually will put car stuff under here sometimes too, to kind of let myself know different things that I have to do. Transportation, I did split these. So category 4 is transportation. So this is where you have your car note, car insurance, gas, parking tolls, public transportation. And this one I feel like is pretty self-explanatory. All of the basic bills that I have, and when I am estimating my gas, this is the category that it will fall under. Category 1 was donations. Category 2 is savings and investing. 3 was home. 4 is transportation. So that's where we are now. Category 5 is utilities. Utilities. So this is where energy, water, trash, internet, phone, anything that is related under your utilities, anything that is an extra bill within your home. This is all of those categories. So with us, we usually will kind of keep track of all of the different ones that we have. This helps us really well to estimate how much we're going to spend on energy, because energy is one of those bills that can really fluctuate. It can go up and down depending on the month. So a lot of times I will look and see and say, okay, what did I have? What was last July like? So I don't really compare my current utility bill to last month's utility bill to try and estimate. I look at the current year versus last year, because the current month of July, how much I ran my energy for, this month, what was the bill last year at the exact same time, is probably going to be a better estimate to try and figure out how much you need to budget for that particular thing. So this is all of the things that you need to think about when you are looking at this category, is try and compare last year to this year instead of last month to this month in order to estimate how much you're going to need for your budget. Category 6, probably one of our top categories, and that is food. So with us, food is one of our top spending areas, because we do like to eat out. So what I will do is I try and set aside a certain amount of our budget to go toward our food, so that we're still able to dine out, have fun, do date nights, all of the different things that we do. And so this is under food. We have dining out, fast food, restaurants, and I also put groceries on under here. I don't think I have it listed here, but I do also include groceries under here. And so what I will do, though, a lot of times is I put category food, and then I might put a D for dining out. This helps me to, I'll break this one down even further, because this is one of the categories where we do spend a lot. If we go over budget, it is almost 97% going to be because of food. It's almost always because of food. And so I will break this one down even more. So as you can see, it's just dining out, restaurants, and fast food, but I'll put food, dining out, food, restaurants, so I can see how much did I spend overall on food, and then how much did I spend on fast food. So I will usually keep all of them kind of separate so that I can see how much I've spent on each one. Category 7, health. Now, this one may not be for everyone, because if your employer covers your health, then you probably may not need this one. We do, because I do pay for health insurance out of pocket. I pay for it through my business, but it is still something that I have to kind of come up with on our own. We have to evaluate on our own. So medical insurance, our dental insurance, our life insurance is also under this category as well, and disability insurance, because, like I said, we're self-employed. So we definitely need to pay attention to all of these. Once again, this is a category that not everyone will need. It really does depend, but we do need it because we are self-employed. Category 8 is credit cards or debt. So with our debt category, I do like to see how much of our debt is an overall reflection of our income. So this includes our credit cards, student loans, personal loans. I currently do not have any additional credit cards out there. My credit cards are fully paid off, but I will like charge on a card and then pay it off every single week when it comes down to a lot of our variable expenses like food and dining out and stuff like that. So I will just kind of keep track, but all of my debt is currently paid off except for my student loans and my home. So with those two are the only ones that I currently keep under our debt. And then anytime I am paying extra or my taxes usually will fall under here as well. Anytime I have to pay extra on taxes or pay extra on my student loans, I will kind of notate it as a extra debt payment as well. All right, so this is number 8. Number 9 is my personal credit card, my personal category. Personal category is all of the beauty things that I will do. So haircuts for my husband, my nails, any gym memberships. For us, personal is kind of like self-care as well. So my gym membership is under here. Any spa services that I may do. Shopping, it depends. I will kind of break this one down, but usually a majority of our shopping. Now, if it's home shopping, if I'm shopping specifically for our home, sometimes I will put it under the home and list it like under home projects, home stuff. But if I am shopping for myself or for my kids or for my husband, then I will put it under personal category under shopping. So I have home shopping here, but it really depends on if it's for a particular project. Like if I am working on renovations to the house, then that does not go under my home shopping project. That goes under my home category. But if it's like decorative things, if it's kids shopping things, if it's personal shopping things, then I will still consider it under my personal category. So it really depends. And that's another thing. You really need to think about this when you are deciding on your categories. You really want to think about, how do you think? How do you normally think? And how do you shop? Because it would be the reason why I like to keep this on like I like to look at this particular way is because first, I know that I don't shop often. So since I don't shop often, it really doesn't make any sense for me to have it as its own category, because we don't do enough shopping for us to have it as a separate category. I can kind of loop it all in because I know we'll probably only go shopping like once every other month or something like that. We'll get a couple things and then we won't shop for a while. Now, if shopping is a big deal for you, like food is for us, then you may want to consider having it be its own category, and you can break it down for food shopping and home shopping and personal clothing shopping. You may want to break it down into all of the different categories because you do a lot of shopping, and it will help you. It will benefit you if you're able to see how much you're spending under each section. You'll be able to identify if you have any major issues by looking at each one of these things, right? So that's how I kind of evaluate what categories are super important for me or which ones are not important for me, right? Like if Food is a very, very important one because we eat out, and that's an area where I know we tend to go over. However, shopping isn't really that big of a deal because I don't usually go over in that area. But if you do, then you may want to say, okay, let me divide up my entire category. I'm going to have a complete category that is just for my shopping. And I'm going to break down each one of the shopping because I love to shop. And if I love to shop, then I want to make sure that I'm not going over in that particular area. All right. And number 10 is entertainment. Entertainment. So these are all of the other miscellaneous extra things that I might do with my family. We will do movies. We will do a family night. We will do personal fun money, subscriptions, all of that kind of falls under here. And the reason why I have subscriptions under here is because with us, a lot of our subscriptions run through our phone. We have Netflix, we have Hulu, and I am counting all of that under here as well, under our entertainment category. But I also have those Apple subscriptions. And I don't know if you have kids, if anybody out there has kids and you know that they love to buy like apps, and my kids are into Robux, so they have to buy points and add it to the game. So it's like $1.99, and it's $2.99 or $4.99. So every time I will see it, I can allocate it to my entertainment category and then add it up, make sure they're not spending too much in that particular game, or put them on a limit every single week to make sure we're not just spending too much money under games or for the phones. So that's why I will keep that all under here. So it depends on what type of subscriptions you have, but for me, all of ours just kind of fall under the entertainment category. And so we also have we do restaurants and stuff separately, like where we have restaurants, but I also will include my date night kind of separately under entertainment, because even though sometimes we're going to a restaurant, sometimes we may not be going to a restaurant. We might be doing something else that's just fun for a date night. So I do like to keep them kind of separate, just so I can let myself know, okay, no, this was specifically for date night, which me and my husband will try and do every 7 days. So we try and go on a date every week, every Friday. And so that's just the way that I can signify, okay, this is the budget for date night, and this was just for a date night, versus us just going out for a restaurant or a dining out or something like that. All right. Let's go to some of your questions. I tried to start as many as I possibly could. Oh, if you are a part of Organize You, if you don't know what Organize You is my membership. And if you're interested in finding out more about that, it is a monthly membership that you can find out more about if you go to this particular website. And you can find out more about it. I just put it in the chat box. But if you are a part of Organize You, you can download the budget categories template that I have uploaded to the site. You'll see the replay of this class along with the template, and you can work on your own categories there along with your budget planner. If you look in the front of the budget planner, I do have these categories in there as well. All right. So let's get into some of your questions. Let's see. We budget $100 for games. Mm-hmm. Okay. So if you have a tendency to go over, excuse me, y'all, had a frog in my throat. All right. So if we have a tendency to go over with your budget, the first thing that you want to do is try and see if you could get on the same page. A lot of times we just aren't on the same page with our partner. And it's usually because of some type of controlling thing. If our partner feels like we are trying to control our marriage or control the money or control this or control that, then usually it will end up causing us to fight about money. And it really doesn't have anything to do with the money itself. It has to do with the feeling of control. So what I usually recommend is to not make it a debate, but talk about it over like a date night or make it a light event. So me and my husband like to talk lightly about not lightly, but we'll talk about our money. In the very beginning of our marriage, when we first was talking about it, it ended up being more of like a debate almost, because my husband didn't realize that my overall money personality, like I am a very analytical person. I'm a very logical person. I love to look at all of the numbers. I love to get down to the details and budget to the penny. He kind of likes to go with the flow. And he was just more of a free flowing type of person. And so what ended up happening was we were kind of butt head from time to time, because he felt like why we got to budget to the penny? Why can't I just have fun and do this and do that? But what I realized is that it was more about the control over, or him feeling like I wanted control. And when we really kind of got into the money personality and money history of how we viewed money and how our childhood affected us with how we look at money, it really helped us with this. So if you did not see the class on money personality, make sure that you go back to I have a playlist called the Money Monday playlist, or the Monday Motivation Class playlist, on my YouTube channel. And if you find that playlist, one of the classes that we did a couple of weeks ago was on the money personality. This will help you to figure out what's your money personality versus what's your husband money personality, just so you kind of understand each other a little bit better and you don't get into arguments, or you don't feel like you're kind of going back and forth over money or over the budget. And if he and it could be the budget might be too low. That's a thing. Like, I used to try and fuss over like the food budget. Like I say, food budget is like one of our higher budgets. And I was like, no, we need to get this budget way, way, way down. But it was really just reallocating the money. And it's because I had money in my shopping budget that we weren't using. And instead of reallocating it to food, I was just trying to save it. And it was making everyone else miserable, because it was like we're trying to set this standard for the food budget, go from spending, 1,000 to spending 200 a month, and it was just not reasonable. So what I decided to do is say, okay, this may be too much, but let me bring it down a little bit. So maybe you could see how much are y'all currently spending. If it's not 100, is it 150? Is it possible to just find $50 in another area, to where you can move that over and just keep it consistently a little bit higher? If you're blowing it out of water and you really don't have the money for it, then I would say definitely look into the money personality, the money history, dive into all of that to see if it's possible to get on the same page, to make sure you're getting on the same page. All right, let's look at the next one. How to budget when your income is not the same every week. So this is a great, great question. I get it a lot. And one thing that I would suggest if you have variable income is that you look at doing a month ahead. So I did an entire video called how to get 1 month ahead. And let me see if I can find that video and I can put that in the chat box. But with that one, um, I just I discuss how you need to really look at how much you currently your expenses instead of your income, because you need to know what's the minimum that you need in order to survive, right? And so once you know that number, you need to get ahead of yourself so that you're not trying to budget money that you don't have, or you think that this is the money that's coming in and then that's not it. So relying on your savings is going to be really, really great for people who have variable income. If you have variable income, you want to have that savings set aside so that you're able to move money and then replace it as you get paid. So I love when I first started like doing variable income, I got 1 month ahead. So we had a savings account, we had a sinking fund account, and then I had a 1 month ahead account. And my 1 month ahead account had enough money to pay all of my bills for one entire month. And so what instead of me getting paid and then trying to pay bills, I would get paid, move all of that money into my savings account, which already had my money for an entire month, and then move over the amount that I needed into my checking account and then paid all my bills. So I already had the money I needed, and I was just replacing the money that I didn't have, replacing the money into my 1 month ahead account. Now, if you're wondering how to get 1 month ahead, I do have a video on that where I tell you the three strategies that I used in order to get to 1 month ahead. And so let me see. I'm just going to put that in the chat so that if you wanted to catch up on this one, you're able to do so. All right. There you go. That's the video that will help you get 1 month ahead. So it's in there, it's in the chat box. You can definitely see how I did that process in order to kind of help you get a little bit better. All right, let's see what else we got. Yes, so this is how my budget planner is set up. If you look at the very front of the budget planner, you will see these categories listed out in the front of my budget planner. Let's see, do I have it in here? Yes, so, oh, I don't know if that light, I always have to turn on this light. Let's see. Oh, there we go. All right, so as you can see, here is my budget categories, and it's all listed. It's in the very front of my the budget planner. So if you wanted to, like look and see how like get a list of these exact categories, you can definitely check out the very front of the budget planner. I do have them all listed there, how I break them down. I believe I made a couple of small changes in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, because in here I have 9. So they may be slightly different. I have housing, transportation, food. Oh, I didn't list the donations one. I didn't list the donations one because I knew that one was super personal to us. So I didn't list that one. And I did separate out my entertainment and my shopping. So you'll see it within the budget categories. But like I said, it's a template. You definitely can make changes to it. You can look at this one and then revamp it and make it your own to make sure that you are literally, on the same track with what you believe you are going to fit. Right? Like you want to make sure this fits you. You want to make sure this fits you. So, my categories definitely work really well for my family, but the goal here is that when you look at your budget categories, you're like, okay, they make sense to me. They have to make sense to you. So you have to say, okay, if I am doing these different things on a consistent basis, I'm going to remember that this is how I would normally think about these particular expenses, right? Yes, copays could go under health. So copays could go under health. So if you have copays within your health insurance, you could definitely do that as well. Cell phone is under utilities. So my cell phone is currently under my business. It's a business expense for me because I use it so much for my business, posting on social media, and basically a large majority of my calls are for business. So it is listed under my business budget categories. But once again, under utilities, I would list cell phone as well. So yes. Let's see. What's the difference between dining out and restaurants? It's really not a big difference at all. Sometimes with us, I do separate if we are dining out with friends versus if I'm going to restaurants just for us. And it's mainly because a lot of times if we're dining out and someone else invited us, then I kind of look at that differently than I am looking at if we decided on our own to go to a restaurant. So if someone else invited us to something and it was kind of like, yes, we did go, we were dining out, but it was because we were invited, which is different than if we just up and decided to go to a restaurant on our own. So it's mainly me trying to figure out our thinking. I'm trying to figure out, okay, did someone invite us to go out? And so we kind of just was doing this for a social reason, or were we tired and didn't want to cook? And so we went to a restaurant, or were we lazy, didn't feel like it, or didn't want what we had cooked? Like what was going on in our process of thinking? Like what was the thinking process when this expense occurred? Because like I said, 80% of this is based on like our habits. That's why I talk about habits so much. I talk about routines and habits a lot. And it's mainly because we don't spend money just because I'm just spending it just because I feel. We have reasoning that we may not even realize that we're doing when we spend money. So I like to try and see if I can figure out what that reasoning is. So when it comes down to my dining out, usually I categorize it as dining out if we are with someone. We have been invited to an event and we have to pay for the food. We are going out with friends and it is for a social reason that we are dining out. But I list it as restaurant when it is just us being lazy, not wanting to cook, or not wanting what we cooked, and we are eating out because of that. So that's my reasoning. But like I said, food is a big area for us. So I break it down to the smallest denominator because of the way that we spend money on food and because it's one of our top variable spending categories. So since it is, if we go over budget, I know it's going to be 97% on food. More than likely, it's because of food. Since that's the case, I really dive into the specifics when it comes down to our food. I break it down. How did we eat out? Did we just get fast food? Were we tired? Were we lazy? Did we not feel like cooking? Did we buy groceries and then still eat out? All of that matters. All of that matters to me because I really, really want to make sure that if we're doing something in particular, that that I kind of understand why we're doing it. Right? So yeah, I list all ordering out all the same because I should be cooking groceries. I spend too much money on it. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like we could look at it like that, like, oh well, we're spending money. But sometimes it's like we were invited somewhere, and if we were invited, I might not have spent the money had we not been invited. And I like to know that because, it made me feel a little bit better. It makes me feel a little bit better. Like, if I wouldn't spend it unless I was going out, right? So that's how I kind of look at it. Should you make a separate category if you forget it? Like, I forget to shop until I'm busting out of my clothes, and I'm like, oh, I might need more clothes. So this is I like, okay, it's according to how you want to look at it. If you tend to forget it, then you may end up spending more money on it if you add a category. So it's according to if you want to remind yourself to make sure that you have this money set aside, or if you want to keep it aside just for when you actually need it. Like, you could create a sinking fund for your shopping to where it's not a budget category, but it is something that you save for. And then when you realize you need it, you have the money, you just take the money and then you go shopping, right? So that's usually how I'll try and do it. I I realized that when I had too many budget categories, it was one very difficult for me to realize how we're currently spending our money. And then if I had a category where I had money left over, sometimes I felt like I had to spend it. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm like, oh, well, we have it, so I might as well look for something to spend it on because I can shop. When I'm like, well, no, your normal feeling is not to shop. Like, you don't usually go shopping for fun. So if I put the money aside, I felt like I would shop just because. So I just it depends though. But if you feel like, this is something that I'm going to forget, I really need to kind of stay on top of this category, then you may want to add it. You may want to add it and make sure that you are doing it on a consistent basis. I'd love to see a video breaking down the cash envelopes versus digital. Ooh, that sounds like a great idea. Let me write that down in my brainstorming notebook. So I can definitely do that, where we can talk about my my digital versus cash envelopes. Um, because I really love the way that they are set up now. I don't know if you've ever had this happen in if it's ever happened to you, but where you have had, like, I used to have all cash envelopes, and then I would have all cash envelopes, and then I would need the money while I'm out. And man, I would just cringe every time I needed the money and it wasn't in my account. And I had to go back home or try and figure out how I'm going to make it work. Like, that would just drive me nuts. So now I just make it a point to like keep them separate. And this system really, really works for me. This system really works for me. So that's a great idea. I wrote that down. I'll try and do that one. I think I could do that next week. I think I can do that next week. So I'll try and do that one next week. How can you make your money stretch to cover for all of the categories? Oh, that sounds like an amazing video as well. I love to do percentages. Instead of trying to set a certain amount, I usually will do percentages. And that is the best way. So for me, I will do 10% for my donation category because 10% is going to be for my tithes. And then I start breaking it down like 5%. And if I can't do 5% for savings and so I'll do 10% for donations, 5% for savings and paying down debt. And then the rest usually goes toward my bills and all of the other categories. Like, I just try and break it down. But if you and that's the best way to do it, especially if you can't, like, if you don't know how much you're going to make, or if your amount fluctuates, then you don't want to put a set amount. The other thing that you can do is play around with the numbers. Just because I have all of these categories does not mean that every single one of them was funded big amounts of money. I have set aside $10 in sinking fund envelopes before. I have done, all I have left over is an additional $5 for this or that. Like, just because you have all of the categories doesn't mean you have to have a max amount of money into all of them. So you really want to pace yourself. You really want to try and see if you can do percentages, because percentages mean that no matter what you're getting paid, you're doing 3% of whatever you got paid to this, and 2% to that, and 5% to that, and 10% to that. And it makes it much, much easier, because once you add it all up, it's 100%. You're going to start with those fixed expenses, start with those bills, because you got to pay those, and then see what you have left over. So if 70% of your income goes toward your bills, if it's 80%, even if it's 90%, let's say 90% of your money goes toward your bills. All right, let's start there. And then we'll say, okay, well, 2% will go to savings, 2% will go here, 2% will go there. Be, patient with yourself, patient with your money, and then make small steps of progress. That small progress is definitely will help you actually stick to your budget. It'll help you stick to it instead of trying to save a large amount of money, a large amount of your budget, and you're trying to save half of your income toward your savings. You're going to end up moving the money back because you need it. You need it. So it doesn't, it's only going to hurt you. Try and start small and then work your way up, especially if you are just starting with budgeting. It's the best thing that you can do. All right. On the expense tracker, could we put the money we put into savings onto the expense tracker? Yes, definitely could. You definitely could. So I have a savings section, but I also have put different things on my expense tracker if I'm trying to keep up with a certain balance. I've also added the balance for particular categories on my expense tracker as well, to kind of let myself know what I am doing. Oh, I might have to turn on the light again. But if you look, I did this in a video where I shared with you like how I am like categorizing my different things. I have like food and personal, but I put like a subtotal here to let myself know how much I was spending on food and let myself know how much we had left over. I think we had a $500 for budget for food, and we had spent $122. But this lets me know, okay, you spent $122. You know what you have left over. Like you're still under budget, but you just need to keep track and make sure that you don't go over your 500. So you can use the expense tracker to do however you want to do it. You could keep up with how much you're putting into your savings and add that on there as well, so that you can kind of see where your money is going under all of it. And then they have, we also have the budget check-in, where you have all of your categories and you have how much you've spent and how much is remaining by the end of the month. So you can also keep track on the budget check-in of how much you currently have left over under each category. Okay, so that will help you so much to make sure that you are staying on top of that as well. All right. Let's see. Oh, I see a couple of people is talking about YNAB. So YNAB stands for You Need a Budget, and it's a great app. It's a great app if you like digital budgeting and you want to keep track of everything through an app. It will automate and you can set up your expense categories, and then you're easily able to categorize the different things that you have. So it is a great app as well. I've used it in the past. Now, I'm not huge on digital budgeting. I do like pen and paper, but I do appreciate the app. All right, let's see. Do you highlight your transactions in expense category? Yes. I did an entire video on this. I want to say it was last week, how I track my expenses in my budget planner. And I do color code each one of the categories. So each one of my categories have a different color, and I have added a label on my highlighters. So green is for food. I have mild liners. I add the label onto them and make sure that I remind myself that it is for food. And then that way it's super easy for me to kind of keep up with my categories, because I'm just highlighting them and then adding them up. And then that way I know how much I'm spending. So yes, I do that as well. All right, let's see. What about being on a monthly budget? Any tips, please? I made an Excel spreadsheet. I have 3 sections, one for main, for savings, and one for debt. Yet you can, I do have a video on this, when you are budgeting for the month, how to like set up your entire budget and how to make sure that you are, how you can kind of plan out everything that you need for the month, but under your fixed expenses and variable expenses. I'm going to see if I can find it, and put it in there, put it in the chat box. But basically, one of the main things that you really need to do when you're budgeting for the month is just making sure that you are keeping up with all of all of the things that you're going to need for the entire month. Now the great thing is that as soon as you get paid, you pay all of your fixed expenses. But I find that whenever I was trying to track my expenses for the entire month, I had to stay on top of them on a daily basis, or I find myself really falling short with not being able to stick with the whole thing. So like whenever I would fall off of tracking my expenses, it was very hard for me to catch up. It was extremely hard because if I missed a week, I could easily go back a week and just kind of like add all of the expenses for the week. If I missed a month, it's almost like I would just scratch it and start over. So I really, the main thing is making sure that you really stay on top of tracking your expenses to make sure that you don't overspend or lose track of where you are. But I'm going to put right now in the chat box the video that I did. It is my 5 tips. I want to say, what is the name of this video? My 5 steps for setting up a monthly budget is the name of this video. So you can see the exact steps that I took in order to set up my monthly budget. Yeah, definitely do try YNAB. Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of Mint. Like I use it every now and then for overall look. And I think I did a video on that one as well. But to be honest, I am a paper and pen just girl. Just paper and pen just works really, really well for me. All right, let's see. We have a couple more minutes. How many bank accounts do you suggest having? Should I save for different reasons, be in separate account, or does it make more sense to have it all in savings, just dumped into one savings account? So this really depends. It really, really depends. I have 5 bank accounts. I have my spending account, which is a spending account where we can use to actually just swipe money. Me and my husband both have access to this one. We have our bill account where it's just strictly for our bills. Short-term savings account, which is the one that I tell you for car maintenance and home maintenance, anything random that may come up that I'm not sure that we were going to have to pay for. Long-term savings, which is our emergency fund, only like saving for if anything happened to our income. And then I have my business account. So those are my 5 accounts that I currently have, and the reasons why I have them. Now, with my short-term savings account, that would be my savings. I don't really like, I separate it on paper. Like I know how much I have set aside for home maintenance versus how much I have set aside for my car maintenance. But to be honest, all of that money is just kind of mixed in together because I don't know when I'm going to need it. And the thought process is I doubt that I'll need them both at the same time. So they kind of just like mixed in to where I have a set amount of $3,000 in that account, with the thought process being that I probably won't need home and car at the exact same time. And whatever one I need, I just replenish it up to the amount of 3,000. And so then that way it's just there. And then when it comes to my other sinking fund accounts, which sinking fund accounts, I saw that question come up too. Sinking fund accounts are when you're saving for things that are not normally in your budget. So things like Christmas, birthday, anniversary, home maintenance, car maintenance. These are things that don't normally happen. You don't normally have to pay for these things every single time you get paid. So we set it aside in what we call a sinking fund, because it saves you from sinking. It saves you from blowing your budget. It's a fund that you have set aside for those emergencies. And so what I do with the other ones, where I do really need to know how much I have because I really want to have a set amount, those are the ones I do in cash, and that's why I do them in cash. So Christmas and my anniversary and birthdays, those are set aside in cash because I really want to know. I want to make sure that I hit $1,200 for Christmas. I want to make sure that I hit $500 for my birthday. It is a specific amount that I am saving for a specific amount of time. So those are done in cash. That's how I do it. And that's the reason why I separate some of them out and don't separate others, because I don't know how much it's going to be. I just kind of do a blanket amount. I keep it in an account because I don't know when I'm going to need it, and I want to make sure that it's there if I do need it. Versus Christmas, I know exactly when it's coming. I know how much I want. I know what I'm saving for. I save it in cash. I have it in the envelope. I can count how much I have. That's the difference for me. However, if you feel like that may not work for you, then you can definitely switch it up or do something like a Capital One 360 account. I think that they let you have like separate accounts within that one account or something like that. I don't have one of those, but I know that there are different other types of accounts out there to where you could possibly have separate accounts under one account and you're able to see it. But I like to keep those in cash. I really, really do. All right. Should you make a separate categories for things that you forget to spend on? I think we talked about this one, but yeah, I believe that it depends on, it depends on the person. I probably wouldn't do it because I feel like if I set it aside as a category, I would end up spending money on it. I just would spend it just because it's there. So how do you know how much to spend for each of the categories? I would really look at how much you have spent in the past. If you've never spent in the past before on any of these categories, or you don't have a budget from the past, then I would look at how much you're currently spending now. Print out your bank statement from the last 2 months. And look and see, how much did you spend last month on food? How much did you spend on shopping? How much did you spend on subscriptions? That is your best way to start off your first budget, to know what you're probably going to spend this month. It's because on average, we're going to spend the exact same thing each time. All right. I like to buy notebook and journals, also technology, computer things. Would that be considered personal or entertainment? Is it based on how I use it? So I would consider buying notebooks, journals, my planner stuff personal. I do consider that personal. And this is mainly because all of those things are like a personal hobby of mine. Like I just love planning, right? So I love planning. I love buying notebooks and journals. They're just fun for me. So I would probably consider that a personal item. Probably the same thing for technology / computer things, because it really depends on how you're using them. But for my entertainment, I usually will consider that like events that I am going to, not really things that I am buying. So if I'm buying a planner, I really just list that under personal or personal care or hobby because that's kind of fall under my personal category, because it's really just for me. But when it comes down to entertainment and movies and things like that, I consider that. Or like if we went to the museum, right? Vacation stuff, like just traveling, stuff like that, I would consider that more under the entertainment category, like something that we are doing separate and apart, right? So that's how I do those. Um, if there's money left over from a category, should it remain in that category or roll over and be transferred into debt and savings? That really depends on you and how you would like to do it. I love to, um, I usually will move it into savings and start fresh for the new month. That's usually what I do, or pay off, put an extra debt payment. That's just what I like to do. However, if there's ever any money left over in food, we're probably going to roll over food. All the other ones, I probably will move it into savings. But it just depends. Like if you love to shop and you may not have done any shopping this particular month, but you know you're probably going to want to do some extra next month, then move it over into, like, you don't have to deprive yourself and put it into savings just because it's left over. You may want to move it over into your shopping budget for the next month. And so it's completely up to you how you decide to do this. I really would like to do, um, I like to put it into savings for now. That's just where I have been for now. All right. What site do you order your paper books from? Are you talking about my planners or like the books that I read? Give me a little bit more information. I want to make sure I understand the question. Mm-mm. All right, let's see. Would you say that a budget act is more as a profit and loss statement? Definitely. So we look at ours as, like the profit and loss statement for our house. We like to run the house like a business. We love to look and see how we are currently doing. We will evaluate our, my background is in accounting. So I love profit and loss statements. I love income statements and looking at and evaluating where we were last year versus this year. I am always doing annual comparisons and all of that, but that's just, the fun stuff that I find. I find fun. However, it's, depends on how you like to look at it, but I really, really do, because I like to know what our net worth is overall, make sure we're trending in the right direction. So do I use it very sparingly. So I don't really use it as much. And the only reason why I stopped using Capital as much is because it stopped working with my bank account. I don't know like, so the reason why it's cash envelopes now, and like all of the things that I'm doing with my cash envelopes, I used to do with Capital, and I loved Capital, but it just stopped working. I don't know what happened at the beginning of last year. I want to say it literally stopped linking to my bank account, and I could not use it anymore because it just wouldn't pull the money. It wouldn't link. It was like a chore to get them to like make it work correctly. So I just kind of let it go. But unfortunately, because I really, really, really love the app and I really wanted to work on it. Oh, the books that I read. Yes, yes, yes. So I will order my books from a variety of places. I love to start with thrift books. If you've ever heard of thriftbooks.com, I will add it. But a lot of times they have really great deal on books that people have, they may be pre-owned, and then you could pick up like a book that's $25 for $6 instead. So I usually will start there. If they don't have it, then I may move over to Amazon or, another site like Barnes and Nobles and stuff like that. But I do try my best to see if I can find it at like thriftbooks.com or one of the other thrifting books places, because, I know I'm more than likely going to keep them. But I do like to see if I can get the best one, the best price out there. All right, last question. Do they have planners like the audiobooks? We're able to read to you what you have going on your planner. Oh, I don't know. I do not know. I'm not 100% sure if they have it. If anybody knows the answer to this question, please put it in there. Like, do they have planners like the audiobooks? They're able to read what you have going. I know maybe like Google might have something like that. I'm not sure though. I'm not really sure. If anybody knows, please let it. Um, how do you add refunds from purchases? So I would just still add it under my expense category and add it as a plus sign, like I'm adding it back to my budget, and then put the new balance within my budget, like within my budget planner on the next line. So that's how I normally do it. That's how I normally do it. All right. So, guys, thank you all so much for joining me. This was a great class. I hope that you really got a lot from this class. Remember, if you are a member of Organize You, I'm going to put the replay along with the slides on our membership site. You will also have the budget template or the list of all of the categories that I talked about today within the slides. It's also there so that you can also write down your own budget categories and kind of help you develop your own there. So make sure that you check the website out for that. The membership site, it will be up by tomorrow. And I will see you all in our next class. What's coming up this week? What am I posting this week? This week, we are going to be doing an update within my budget planner. Not my budget planner, my life planner. I'm going to be setting up my new week, and I'm going to be walking you through the process of how I do that. I'm just making sure that that's what I'm talking about. Yes. So we're going to be setting up my planner for the new month. I'm going to be sharing with you how I have how I'm using the different inserts that I'm using. And so that's what we're talking about on Wednesday, same time Wednesday, on my YouTube channel. And then on Friday, in Friday's video, I'm going to be sharing with you my goals and projects journal. I think a lot of times I get a lot of questions on what if it's not a plan for the day? What if it's a like full-on project, a goal that I'm trying to complete? How do you break down those goals? How do you break down those projects? I did a video somewhat on this when we were doing the 25 videos during Christmas, but I want to show you how I break it down within my journal, because I did separate from my brainstorming notebook. I separated my goals and my projects to keep them in a separate journal from that. So that's what we're going to be talking about on Friday. So thank you all so much, and I will see you all on Wednesday. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Bye, guys.